My brave friends, fans of the Sam Bubbles channel with us today, a surprise that you asked for a lot. Summing up the second part of the horror series from attention has been paid to our friends. Our friends are sensitive at your request. Make sure you are a participant in the Sam Bubbles family. Press the bell and start the fun. The last need that we saw in the video that was missed was that Boyd took a walk, and they started at the time of their journey so that they risked circling the exit from the village where they are. But the problem is that at the time, the night seemed to be on them, and the monsters were coming out to kill them. But at the time, and he knew that she appreciated using the openings in the tree and entering into any of them and meeting themselves in a place in front of a boy who really seemed to be working hard. And suddenly Jim and Jed stayed. They were trying the radio that they worked without him. And Jim was not trying the radio, so he came up with the limit, talk to him. The limit was that he was one of the monsters, and Jim knew that he had to stop his wife Tabby and let her dig in the house with her. Of course, Jim, and at the time she was digging in her house so that she could know the source of electricity. But while she was digging, suddenly there was a collapse in the cellar in which she was digging, and he sat in a semi-underground place. But Victor visited her at the time, and he knew that he was interested because the strange child knew for sure that she was agitated at the time here. And Victor also knew that the tunnels underground dissed the place where the monsters slept. And therefore Victor deceived Tabby so that the moment they came out of the tunnels, Dan, we know what they did. Bus arrived to the village, and it's not cold what we know for every long time. The people who are in the bus are very, very completely. The new season starts from the same point with an end. The season is late, and Boyd is not locked up in the lighthouse in which he is locked up. And it's better when I try to climb up with the hand of the place where he is locked up. And the lee is very tight. Faces of the lighthouse itself. He tries and tries to get out. Fails. And at the time he stayed, my friend, the one who was trapped after Boyd tried to help him in need, he agreed with a pure ordinary hand. And in fact, the person above him is aiming for rope eggs. So he used rope eggs and started climbing so that he comes out. And while he was climbing eggs, he would prefer to imagine his son, Alice. But it means focusing on my time, and preferably climbing to some extent, to get out of the place where he is locked up. After what he squeals with his hand before him, person who helped him, and the person is an old man, his body is very, very weak, and we know if Boyd killed him, no, and my friend, by the way, will walk from sometime Boyd Saba and entered the tree. What he knows is Finn, as of course he entered the tree, and once we knew the tree, I moved him to a second place, and what he knows. Of course, it means that I know at the same time that the world is raining in the village, and it seems to have stayed good, and all those in Donna's house, that they blame the devices that they used to turn on the radio. But it means what is destroyed by the rain. And you see, my friend, that there is a strange need in Donna's house that all the devices that connect electricity to the radio start to explode for no reason. And because of it is really important, the bus that arrives in the village is good. And Donna knows that she will go crazy without us and take Kenny so that she can go see in any or stay good. At the same time, he seems to imagine strange needs that survived. He imagines the symbol that always shows him, a strange and terrifying strangulation, and so on. He thinks of the doll de Cuisse very much because we need it before the important gate. After he talks with the child Essen, Jim's son, and asks him that he, by his cheek, means for Victor's fashion, so that he means to show a need. They actually take Essen for Victor's fashion. And by Saul, when I do, Essen is good, he is doing. He doubted that Victor knew the need to get them out of the place and shut up. And what you forget, my friend, that Jade discovered in a book that is painted with the symbol Dama. Be imagined from the time of the mag of the village. The book is so good that he doubted that Victor knows the need to get them out of the place. He felt that Victor knows a need about this symbol, and knows a need in general means about the city, and appreciates getting them out of it. And therefore good for the reasons, Debbie Dorr is currently in Victor's case on any need that helps him understand which symbol he always sees, but good does not meet any need. frustrated at the time. Benshoff remained that Victor, if you think about it, Victor wouldn't have gone into one of the holes in the tree and reached the tunnel D. After a while, he wouldn't have tried to escape from the monsters. Attack on Donna's house. And Victor Tabby knows that the strange child appeared to him, and he knew that Tabby would arrive here, and therefore he is ready to help her. And they just get out of here because the place is dangerous in a natural way. And easily, by the time Victor, Tabby, and Zawa roll into the tunnels so that they get out of it. And while they are, the important thing is that Victor, while Belov was in the tunnels, surprised Bischoff by the puppet, which was good, recovered from his mutilation exactly in Hungary. What Bischoff Victor, the puppet, to Peter, literally terrified, and Tabby in the spirit of a place where he is sitting, he takes care of himself, eager to show and then threaten him to take him so that they walk. No. At the time the monsters began to wake up at night, so his house, and they preferred my time, they escaped to some extent. They can actually get out of the tunnels and be in the forest. They, the shapes and colors of the young and the old and the cool of the Amar. And by being in 6, she is the driver of the bus, preferably the 6D. The damage remained in the village, because it means graduating from it. And the bacon in a young man slept in the bus. His name is Elgin. He woke up from sleep in 626. Although the first time he came here, he preferred to ask the driver to stand on the side quickly, because they are here, and at the same time people from the bus are trying to calm him down. The Jean preferably screams, and from horror he returns, so he decided to take another way. She stands on the side, so that means she cleans the bus, and a nurse on the bus kindly tries to treat the Jean. But the rest of the people on the bus are on the street breathing grill. And, in the meantime, they have Kenny, so that he opens the restaurant for them by selling his mother to sit in it. And at the same time, he has a violin on Julie's idea. And by requiring a minute of my time from whatever limit, he comes with her to her house, because her house is in a landslide, and he is trying to dig there to take a risk to, at the same time, the Jean gets tired more and more, spots, and preferably cramps, thanks to the nurse who is with him. She is trying to treat him, and she doesn't understand exactly what money is after a smear, my friend, Tiggy, the village doctor who is Christy. She thinks of it. And at the moment, Deboshov, the nurse who treats the Jean and who gets to the village from a smear by bus, loves the first thing by showing her, because she knows her and remains a friend of her age. So what a monstrosity can escape from it, and that there are monsters killing people. And all the talk is there. But the driver does not believe the words of the final and early. She takes all the bus passengers and walks from here and loses her nerve. Especially since the world is salvation. If they think that they are riding the bus and walking from the village, the monsters are looking at them and killing them. So Donna, everyone knows that what Hedash is walking from here, and by answering her gun and hitting Coach in the bus by destroying her and Peggy Kenny violin, and hitting how many shots in the air. And everyone enters the restaurant, followed by his mother, and Z's need is sure. But they work hard so that they control the people in the period of the night. Day and Madesh die after a while. When the morning comes, she understands every need about the village calmly, while D stayed by the site that the bartender. Problem is that suddenly the house looks like it's being hit by an earthquake, and it's starting to collapse. So everyone runs away. But it's not about that. House is completely collapsed and everyone is sitting under the rubble. At the moment, Debecha has them. Julie and Donna and everyone takes a risk to help them. And they appreciate my time. They get one out of the rubble with the belongings of the house. But when they start to get Jimmy and Lee out together, they discover that they can't get them out quickly because all the rubble is on top of each other. And if they get the rubble as quickly as possible, falls on Jim and Lee. They try the second day in the morning to get them out quietly, which means my friend, Jim, and the two that are with him are preferred under the rubble all night. And what we know are the monsters that they are. And none, but despite this, it means Jim prefers my friend, and the two that are with him under the rubble are pure ordinary. And the problem is that after grilling with a knife, the person who completed the bus and locked up here with Jim, Vaja, began to get tired and bins in the blood of the one who remained, that he was seriously injured and would die. This is because of his injury, but when he suddenly became henna sticks, he starts to see one of the monsters, and this monster attacks him and kills him. At this moment, Jim becomes very terrified, but he remains completely silent and does not make any sound, hoping that nothing will happen until the next day. At the same time, there are people from the bus crew outside the restaurant who have not entered the restaurant until now with everyone. There are two of these people who are hiding in front of the bus in the middle of the night. At this time, Fatima keeps calling them and tries to go out and bring them to the restaurant so that they do not die. But a priest comes to Fatima and knows that there are monsters coming towards them, so they quickly enter the restaurant again and stand by themselves. By the way, two of the monsters come and stand in front of the restaurant door and keep looking at Fatima and laughing provocatively. Suddenly, Fatima and Alice start to hear screams from outside. They know that the people who were hiding on the bus were killed, and this of course upsets Fatima. Apart from these two, we see that there are two others who are hiding on the bus itself, and one of the monsters comes to them and attacks them. You live in this asana. There are two people on the bus, a boy and a girl named Brian and Kelly. They are hiding in an abandoned gas station in the village. Suddenly, they find people asking them to let them in. Of course, they do not understand anything about the village, nor do they know that there are monsters or anything like that. So they actually open the door for them, and they enter. We do not know if these monsters killed them or not, but we will find out later. At the same time, in the restaurant, Donna is trying to control all the people who came on the bus and make them understand what exactly is happening in the village. But one of those who were there is not convinced by Donna's words and decides to go out. Outside the restaurant, Kenny tries to stop this person, but he quickly takes Kenny's gun and pins Kenny down, and everyone knows that he will open the restaurant and leave against everyone's will. After a while, everyone hears a scream from outside, so Julie is afraid that it is the sound of her father dying, so she goes out to see him. Christy and Donna and everyone stop her, and Bessie comes upon her, and everyone stays hiding in the restaurant until the next day. The next day, when morning comes, they go out of the restaurant, and the bus goes out to the bus, so she is inside. So she lines them up at Jim's house, Sak Al-Han, who is killed in a way that is funny, so everyone is afraid that Jim is the second one who died. Jim talks to them and they know that he is still alive. So everyone is angry and starts to carry the money so that they get Jim out, according to their own lineage. And we go to Boyd, my friend. He's still in the lighthouse, and in front of him, the person that tied. This and the one, we know his name is Martin, and Boyd keeps going around here and finds a dead body, and this body is tied up. And Boyd knows that there is a person tied up here like Martin, and he stayed in this position until he died, and asks Boyd, now Martin, who did this to you and tied you up so? Martin tells Boyd that a long time ago he came to the village here like all the people, and once he went into Upin, a jasmine tree, and suddenly he came here. There were many monsters who found him and tied him up, as you can see, and Martin keeps asking Boyd to kill him, but Boyd refuses a lot and keeps trying to free Martin, and in the meantime strange music is playing, so Martin tells Boyd to get out of here. Now that this music is playing, the monsters will come now and Herbaton, but Boyd still refuses and goes to see what this music is coming from. So he finds it coming from a box, like one of the children's boxes that you open, meaning music comes out. Martin now knows that as soon as this box plays the music inside it, the monsters or people who tied him here come and play, and Martin keeps asking Boyd to leave. Boyd insists on taking him with him, and keeps trying to untie it until Boyd is able to untie one of Martin's hands. At that time, Boyd looks at Martin's hand in a strange, playful worm under his skin. And before Boyd understands anything, Martin decides Stounty, and they get hurt, and they know, and that their blood has become one, and Martin dies before Boyd understands anything, and Boyd is in a lot of pain from the wound on his hand, that doesn't care and just gets up and runs away from the place. And Boyd is unnaturally afraid that the world has started to turn, and any monster could attack him at any moment. But now Boyd's dog comes, and this is Victor's dog, if I remember, and this dog keeps sniffing Boyd and leaves and walks, so Boyd feels that he has to walk. And after this dog, he actually starts following him and walking behind him moment by moment. At the same time, we see that Victor and Tabby were running away together, and they keep running away until they reach the truck. Then Victor opens the door of the truck, and Tabby enters it and locks it behind them. By the way, this truck has a lot of things and is also ready for living. Victor tells Tabby that he is the one who prepared this truck a long time ago so that he can live in it alone. Tabby asks Victor how long he has been here. He says that he has been here since he was a child, when he arrived in the village a long time ago by chance with his mother. His mother died, and he is the one who stayed here. After a while, my friend, Victor and Tabby hear a voice from outside the truck. They search to see who it is. They quickly find Boy. Of course, they make him take shelter with them in the truck. Not much time has passed, and they all hear a voice coming from outside. They see who it is. They find Jin, who of course did not have time to enter the restaurant with the rest of the people who came in the bus. So, he stayed in the street. Although Boyd and everyone else do not understand who he is and do not understand what choir. The story of the bus that arrived to the village, but they mean that in all the firsts they enter the truck, and the Jin is tired. So in this asana, Victor talks to Boyd, and they know that he is not comfortable with this Jin at all. He does not know why, but Boyd does not care at all and asks Victor now what he is drawing because, for the record, Victor was sitting now drawing Fury Victor, the drawing that he drew for Boyd, which is a drawing of a normal person, meaning, and Victor knows that Boyd sees these things in his dreams. So he named it, and he does not understand what it symbolizes at all. Anyway, after a short period of time from all of this, the day comes, so everyone gets out of the truck, and Tabby knows at this time from the Jinn that her house was destroyed, and her husband is trapped under the rubble. So she gets scared and leaves everyone and goes to see her husband Boyd. So Boyd is currently focusing on his hand, so there is a worm walking under his skin like him. Martin exactly. He is very surprised, and now Victor is also seeing this worm walking under Boyd's skin, and he keeps looking at Boyd with fear, and I don't know why, but he doesn't say anything to Boyd, and everyone moves to the village behind Tabby. In general, Boyd goes to his job in the name, and at that time Alice comes to him and keeps asking Boyd what happened to you in the forest. But Boyd doesn't want to tell him anything that happened to him or the lighthouse he entered, and why Martin is in it or anything at all. He feels like his father is hiding something from him, and this bothers him. So I walk after a while. Boyd goes to the village, and Bella finds that one of the people who came in the bus is arguing with Doe because he wants to keep a weapon, and Donna refuses. Boyd comes and understands that this is not acceptable. He threatens this person, and they read any weapon. After that, Donna spoke with Boyd, and I knew that all the people who were supposed to come on the bus were 25 people, and among them people died, and currently the number of all the living with the dead is 22. So there are 3 people whose whereabouts we don't know at all. And you want Boyd to know that they are most likely dead, and they will find him at any time, a body here or there. And Donna Boyd also knows that his friend Christy was on the bus. Boyd is surprised because this is the first time that has happened, and Boyd now begins to feel that there is something wrong with this bus, but what it is he still doesn't know. Anyway, Boyd leaves Donna and goes to his wife Abby's grave so that he visits her and talks to her a little like he always does. Boyd begins to talk to Abby and tells her that he is very worried and felt that there's something wrong since he saw Martin tied up in the lighthouse. Especially meaning that Martin talked to Boyd a little about Abby event, though he's not supposed to know her, and Boyd does not know him at all. And the one who finishes his chatter and thinking at my father's grave, so he takes some of it and walks at the same time. We see that Victor returns to his house and enters his room and finds his room completely messed up. And Bella also finds that a violin he always played has disappeared. So Victor is surprised and asks one of the women in the house, because don't forget, my friend, that Victor originally lives in a Bedouin, in a small room. Anyway, he asked one of the women in the house who entered his room, and she tells him, good, so Victor's house is crazy. And he goes to Jade. So Bella has his violin with him. So Victor takes her and walks without saying much. But Jade walks behind him and tries to talk to Victor, and asks him about the symbol he always sees. What does it mean? And he also shows him now that there is a book like this, with this symbol drawn on it, and why there is a picture of a person in this book holding the book. And in this picture, Victor appears from behind this person. He is a young child, and therefore asks Victor, well, if he knows anything about this symbol or the book that contains the symbol. And it is clear, by the way, that Victor knows, but he does not tell anything to Jed, and leaves and walks away. In the meantime, my friend, Jim was in the hospital after people got them out, of course, and he's currently being treated. So Tabby tells him now Julie and Eisen are very happy that their father is fine, and now Tabby sits with Jim, and they learned that after she dug and went down underground to let herself into the tunnels of the monsters who live and sleep in them, Shielzo did not find any source of electricity, and until now she does not know how this electricity originally connected electricity to their house and the whole village, of course. Jimmy's very surprised by all this talk, and Tabby knows that he will search for this subject more and more. So Tabby agrees to his words, and lazily and with a walk, while my friend, Bischoff Jim, stayed in the hospital with a related sign and continued in the electricity. So he looked at it and tried to disassemble it and show her continued. She has electricity from 2, but it fails, because he is very tired. And by the time he has 6 old people like those who were on the bus, and with the help that he is sitting and the old woman stayed talking with Jim, the bus in which they are, Jane, was a private bus, not any exactly. And Jim doubted that in the limit of the bus meant that all the people are traveling around the village here, but the 6. Jim knows that what she knows is a private bus, and no, she just cut off a ticket for him. I got on the bus and the old lady Jim found out that Christy had met her companion on the bus, and the one who was the nurse Mary. And Jim was surprised that day for the first time met a limit of company or kinship in the village. Here, therefore, he is very surprised and seems to think more that there is a strange need regarding the bus, but which is exactly what he knows at the same time. If Tabby, Eisen, and Julie were in the restaurant and receiving the opportunity and asking Kenny's mom if she had any clothes to matter, because it means that their clothes were lost at home. Kenny's mom knows Tabby, she and her family live with her son and Jed at home, which means what they show is that they worked in their house, which was destroyed by Tabby's consent, and thanks to Kenny's mother, after which she was relieved. Tabby and Jory went to the store by selling Kenny's mother, and they preferred to stay clean from there by dressing up. And when they got rid, they came out of the store so that they could relax, and at the same time he stayed by taking Tabby by her feet with 2 children standing. And their shape is strange and terrifying, almost monsters exactly. So Tabby at the moment, ESM is playing a game that looks like a strange shape, but the game is exactly in the tunnels with monsters, and he lets her in. She is surprised, and at the moment is showing Tabby the monsters. The second she's hiding her son and walking, and I understand, of course, which story exactly in which 1930. The important thing is that the Jane knows Fatima, that he has always dreamed of the place here for some incomprehensible reason, and because he is the first to arrive at the place. I am terrified, and the work that he did as we healed in the first is sincere. And the Jane knows Fatima, that what he knows is that he dreams about the place, originally, by, of course, Fatima. The second is surprised, and they know that his words are true, and that my moment actually took him to a lake, and why the Jane shows her. Of course, as usual, I already know that Alice and Kenny were selling traps like this in the forest. And they wouldn't have been selling traps like this, but they were surprised by the girl, whose name is Kelly, if she thought of it, and that Kelly was sprinkled with an iron skewer in her brain. But despite the fact that Kelly is not dead, and when they find out that the monsters have just killed Brian, her fiancé, and Akbar, here you see Brian being killed after they almost stuck the skewer in her brain and walked at the same time. Everyone is surprised by Kelly's words, because the monsters are their age. They have not worked so hard to kill. But Christy, my friend, What does my time show? Kelly is really surprised that she does not live. What it means is in an arrow in her brain. But in general, everyone knows that she is dying, because when they get the seek out of her brain, she will die. And therefore they need to, the moment they get the seek out of her brain, and of course everyone explains to him everything that happened here. So from himself, with a spirit, the seek is removed from Kelly's brain, and Kelly died after a long torment. But in a second place, we can see that Kenny, after what happened, he 2110, all in the spirit of the church, and Benzel to the basement of the church, answers needs, and here he stayed with the shock being Kenny, so the belligerent walked ahead and beckoned. He understood she arrived here as Kenny, along her way, and the spirit Boyd answers why Peggy, and he sits with her with a question. She arrived, Lena, as I. So what do you know? She had dash shows her and works with her problems, because if he heals her, she works with her problems. You forget, my friend, that Sir caused the death of many people, like her brother or even Kenny's father. And the last time she was unable to kill Jim's son, but she made the important. It means that Boyd knows Sarah, that what a monster knows that she is here, and he knows that even Kenny does not know that she killed his father for a very long time. Then problems will happen, and she read what you say and Visal. With Sarah, she is the one who knew that if they entered the tree, they would hit another place. Time means his place in the forest at the moment. Dee is talking to Kenny, and they know that he doesn't really need to know that his walk is here, and means keeping quiet about the subject. So Kenny lost his house because It is important that Christy reveals to him, and after almost showing Christy the wound, that Ed, Boyd, and Lee, of course, Martin did his job for him, and therefore that Christy is unable to reveal it, but Boyd refuses, so Christy is surprised, but it means that she does not follow the instructions of the teacher, and Boyd insists on his words. Ken agreed, but suddenly Boyd, and then he walked with Boyd's spirit, the name, and here he stayed. He began to imagine before him the story that died the season that was late, and better than the story, Boyd knows that he needs to know Kenny. However, he knows the story that he imagines, that he does not say any need for Kenny at the moment. So what he shows is that they woke up to the subject. As Zakir, Kenny stayed in the spirit, currently answering food from his mother and taking food. He means to walk and sit talking to her. She sees herself with a sense of remorse for his. What I did in Kenny's father was a time when she loved him by herself. Every need she did, including that she opened the door of the hospital, and the monsters arrived to his father, and therefore his father died because of her. Of course, Kenny is shocked, and his father thinks, Beirut, my time 2323. The hospital is somewhere where he died, and Peggy spits on him, and his dad Boyd and Bacon Boyd J., so that Kenny knows the salvation that X is the cause of his father's death. Because Boyd, by the way, he killed himself. He can't hide from Kenny more than he can. But Kenny is the one who knows Boyd at the moment that his walk was the cause of his father's death. And it is from the moment Day does not want to know him from Tani. And she does not work with him. Tani, Bicep, and Beamshi. And for the record, Boyd does not want to try Sarah because he does not want her to die. She may know to get them out of the village here one day. But the boy is sure that... But Kenny didn't understand everything. The next way, at Tabby. So we found out that Tabby is currently having a miscarriage because it means going to Jim in the hospital, and actually in the spirit of asking Jim in the hospital. So by being on the bus, and they are currently being, it means taking their clothes off and so on. From the important bus, his friend Christy Marie came up to him. So, Ja here, I hope he understands any of the people who were on the bus. And Jim Tapey knows that he's very skeptical that they're in 2430. An experiment or a simulation of some kind. And there are people here watching, and Jim is keenly sensitive because of the person who spoke on the radio the season that was late. And Tabby asks if, as far as he heard the call on the radio, other than you can't be hallucinating. So Jim said she was Donna and she was there with him. And did you hear the person who said it on the radio? And no, Donna, she really did hear it and she knows it, because I'm not sure that the person who said it is a monster in a brown sense, or And Donna knows that his words are not certain, and it is necessary to make sure the first one before what the speech says to people, because then people get tired. So they listen to her words and read on the radio so that the second one uses it and shows that she is able to speak the person who said the word before the second one is in her house. And Randall has an idea. He is the kind person who used to keep a weapon from his grill. His name is Randall. And so as Donna Jabat formed the last salvation, Randall graduated from 2535. Of course, by giving him a spell, it means that he puts it on the bus at night to protect him from monsters. Then, quite simply, with a terrified walk, and with a walk the next day, he stayed. Boyd was sitting in the church. And in the meantime, the boy, Jim, and together with his wife, Tabby, and they suffocated with Boyd, because he walked back here. And even though she tried to kill their son, Eason, the spirit of Devbieful apologizes to them and knows them that he needs Sira very much for my time so that they can get out of the village, because Sira appreciates communicating with monsters, and she appreciates on the day of his graduation. While Boyd was talking to Tiggy, she gave Tabby a walk, and knowing that if she got close to her son Tani, she would kill her, she was afraid and kindly apologized. So Tabby and Jim walked around the place. After what happened, my friend, Tabby is still showing the children who look scary and have other scary needs, toys, etc. So he decided to defy his fear. So Essen's game, and at the moment Dee stayed by showing too many children to tell, and they come close to her, and they say one word only, which is that kiwi. And of course we know with me the word DEA for a very long time. But we already know the important. It means Tabby kindly screams, but suddenly when they met, they all disappeared because they were just a common fantasy. And Peggy told her it was good, and he was nearby and he was the owner. So Tabby knows that what he needs. And slowly, and by walking at the same time, he is on the other side. By the fact that Boyd Barrow meets Donna, and he asks her, means that she supports him in front of people, because he knows they know that Ealing. Sarah lives with them here in the village, but Dee refuses because she's not satisfied with what she's done. She's not satisfied with what she's doing. Donna and Beamshi say after grilling Ben Shoof that his walk will form a base in the church, and Peggy has it at the moment if she thinks of it. As soon as he walks in the middle of talking, Jane knows that she killed her brother. She is very afraid of her, and he walks and walks away. Her walk is very noisy, and she feels that she is salvation. No matter what she does not stay in the village. It is important to walk after a while, with a walk at Kenny's mother in the restaurant, and she takes things from the store by selling a Kenyan mother belonging to Sarah. And her brother means that she killed him by mistake. The season that was late. When Sarah apologizes to Kenny's mother, but Kenny's mother does not accept the apology, and Sarah responds to me in time needs. 25. In the end, with caution he approaches his mother Tani, Bicep, and Beamshi. At the moment, DBG approaches the Jinjin for Sarah, and best helps her to meet her needs. Because it really means it is difficult for him. But in general, Sarah is taking a lot of time and she's all sad. And at the moment, DBG has Kenny, Beckmal, and Bacon as a nerve by walking as far as we know. It is not easy to meet anyone in the village here, far away from the walk of Benshoff. That Jim Peru is the spirit of my time to boy, and talk to him. And they know that he doubted that they are in an experiment, and that in the people of Parabo, and all the talk is 2821. But Boyd the speech is not convinced by him. Jim and Spirit Lamb Kenny, and we know that Jay apologizes to her. Because he did not rule Sir, despite all the things that killed them. In my time and apologizes to her, in spirit, to Jed Benshoff, my friend, that Jed is currently living in Hana. Because it means that the leg of Hannah, who is here, of course, died. It means that Jet Bacon sat all night drinking a lot of alcohol, and at the time there is a picture of a stranger holding a book, with the symbol that is always good. It is sewn with a cloth. We said that in the picture, D. Victor. As a child, it is important that good prefers to spit in the picture D. And because of drinking a lot and all the talking, At the moment, the person in the picture imagines that the person is in front of him and the book with the strange symbol on it disappears because it means no more fantasies than after the person was mutilated. Peggy Victor stayed for good, and he knows well that she knows him. The person in the picture D only needed a small request. The request is that Jed and I are walking with Victor. They took my time, Victor, because there is an old Arab like him, and they know that day Arab is his mother, who arrived in the village here a while ago, but it means she was killed from the beginning, and he knows. Victor said that the person in the picture and the book with the symbol on it was someone like his name, Christopher. And very time, Christopher and Victor's mother and very many other people were arriving to the village by mistake, and they were living in a very happy place, and Victor was always playing a certain violin. And Victor couldn't hear it so far. There have been no problems with it. Christopher once seemed to imagine the strange symbol that his grandfather had returned, imagined it, and began to draw it very much. In 30, Victor's mother asked Victor that at night he was sleeping in Christopher's place. What he knows, Victor did this. But when he got healthy the second day, his mother and all those present were killed. And therefore Victor knew that Christopher was the one who killed them and killed himself in the end. And all because he seemed to imagine the symbol. No more than days later, he began to imagine the same symbol as what we have publicly described about the second side, Bacon. Boyd is not with Kenny's mother and is trying to reconcile with her, and he knows that the existence of a biography, it's in everyone's interest because she will help them escape from the village, which means that they would be right if she killed him. But let's take their right from her, ahead of why they escaped from the village, of course. Or Kenny is not convinced to talk to him and not to accept the apology. And in the meantime, Dee drives Kenny to the place, and in front of the music box, which Martin and Bacon have already seen in the music box, there is a girl who is almost dressed up as ballet dancers, and her uncle is dancing. So Bacon Pete understands any need and Bacon him she, but at the moment, he's suddenly bivouac. And Bella had already passed out at Kenny's mom's restaurant, and all it was a dream of no more important that Kenny decides the moment he takes Boyd to the hospital so that Chris actually exposes his cheek and walks and flies them to the hospital. So Boyd imagines the same music box and beats the one dancing, but it means quickly disappears. And Boyd, and at the moment D-Boy, Christy knows that when he was in the forest, somehow he reached an abandoned lighthouse. And to him, in the lighthouse, a person named Martin, and the person was tormented. And he was tied up, and he was asking him to kill him. But Boyd didn't consent to kill him, and tried to disassemble it. And at the moment, DeMartin was naked in the hands of Z. We healed, and he said to him, "Your blood and my blood became one thing," and Martin died. And Boyd knows that it is clear that Martin at the moment, deconvinced by all the talk and by the fact that Boyd had gone mad, a smile meant a roast in the hospital, and by the spirit of Kenny, and by the fact that Kenny knew that Boyd seemed to imagine similar needs, and it is clear that his presence in the forest. He's kind of crazy, B. Kenny is upset because of everything, and Bea, she's here with Boyd in the hospital. To the extent that he assures him in the loneliness, Boyd seems to be imagining the same girl dancing, and the first time the girl attacked him and kindly betrayed him, but she somehow appeared by disappearing. And Peggy Mary, when I'm the nurse. So, and I don't need to do anything after I start imagining the story with satisfaction, and preferably talking to him for a while until, to some extent, Peggy has Kenny and the story disappears suddenly, and preferably Kenny asks Boyd, the owner of AA, so Boyd stayed telling him from the first 32:52. When he entered the forest, to some extent, he met Martin, and he was scared and transferred his blood to him, which is in the worms. And all the talk is the same, but I was not convinced by his response, and Beacon Chef that unfortunately Boyd has gone mad. So they will understand my time talking about it, they can convince some. And in the spirit of my time, to Donna Benchoff's house, that Alice and Fatima are helping Donna to transport some food, like this, to her Arabic. And we know, my friend, that from the time the people who Jum on the bus and Jum lived here with Donna in her house, eating seemed to be enough. So countries are now starting to take a portion of food, store it in a remote place, so that it means you can control all people and have a few servings every day, and what they need to eat is an increase. So the food is what? To get rid of them quickly. And know what Hadash knows, he is not without obsession. And Fatima and someone like that named Dial lived with them here at home, and to know Dial is from the very old residents of the house. Magash means in the bus. The new people's uniforms are important after grilling. The Bischoff Dial Jin stayed by taking food. A stuffy house with him in the middle of the house. And but Bijwa, Alice and Fatima are on the voice and try to calm the atmosphere, but by mistake, bet about Dale, Alice and BIS is a serious injury.
My dear friend, join Sam Bubble's family to continue the events of the second part of this very enjoyable series.